Questions going once. Going twice. Yeah, go ahead. You don't have to make one up. I mean, if you don't have a question, that's fine too. Are there any books you recommend for those interested in learning about spirituality? There's a lot of really good books on the topic. You're not going to learn about spirituality by reading books. Okay? The way you'll learn about the books of spirituality are pious people. Inshallah. After you have the suhbah of pious people, then the books will benefit you. Imam Ghazali's books are really excellent. So many of them are available in translation, inshallah. Yeah. There's a book called Bidayatul Hidayah, right? The beginning of guidance. It has a relatively good translation. There's a book called Arba'in fi Usul ad-Din, 40 lessons in the principles or basic principles of Deen. Those are good books. But don't think by reading a book you'll make spirituality. The best way of making your spirituality is what? Is by keeping the company of the pious and the righteous, the people who've made it. What if you feel spiritually dead? What can you do? How can make your bond stronger with your family members? Okay, you're going to make your bond stronger with your family members by being nice to them and by giving them their haqq and not asking your haqq from them, which is really difficult, and it's a whole nother topic. If you feel spiritually dead, what can you do? So look, this is something I want everyone to listen to very carefully. Who was here? Was anyone here at the talk that I gave on atheism in Muhammadi Masjid, right? We talked about what? That necessarily, we talked about it in great detail. We won't go into it in that much detail again. But that the dunya, the deen and the dunya, their relationship is inverse with one another. Okay? If you want to make your deen stronger, you have to cut your ties to the dunya. If you want to make your dunya stronger, then cut your ties to deen. Right? This doesn't mean that being poor makes you pious, but it means inside of your heart. Okay? So if you're not feeling your salat, if you're not feeling your whatever, that's why fasting, that's why living, coarse, not everything in your life being super cozy, right? Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu used to wear rough clothes, and he used to sleep on the floor, and he used to do all these kind of things to keep toughness inside of the body. Why? Because the more a person sinks into the lap of luxury, the less spiritual things they'll feel, right? So what's the best way to cut your ties with the dunya? Take less from it. Eat less, sleep less, fast. Spend the minimum amount of money you have to on yourself and on your dependents. Actually not on your dependents, on yourself. On your dependents, you should keep them in a good state. But as little as you can on yourself, and give the rest away if there's anything left afterward to charity. These are all acts of iman. Right? Sacrifice some of your sleep in the night, get up and pray tahajjud. Even if the raka'at are short, there's a sweetness in the iman that a person tastes at that time that they won't taste at other times. I myself feel very ashamed of myself for not being punctual in my tahajjud. But I'll tell you this, that anyone who ever achieved a state with Allah Ta'ala, anyone who ever achieved wilayah with Allah Ta'ala, anyone who had a state with Allah from our mashayikh, we used to see them wake up for tahajjud regularly. And so, you can choose whose path you want to follow. But, if you want to strengthen your ruh, then you have to cut your ties to the dunya. You have to reduce your ties to the dunya. It will make your sensitivity toward matters of deen better. There's a hadith. What is a hadith? The hadith is like the deen and dunya are like two co-wives. Right? What does that mean? Two co-wives. Right? If a man married two women, would those two women probably be friends with each other? It might happen. I mean, it's theoretically possible, but generally speaking, it's going to be an occasion for at least a misunderstanding, right? And so the deen and dunya are like that. If you give a gift to one of them, the other one's going to get upset, right? So that's a very simple answer to that. How do you minimize your use of profanity? Don't say it. Stop listening to music of people who say it. Stop watching TV in which people say it. Nowadays, the artistic way that they bleep out profanity from TV now, it's like worse than actually saying it. Because if a person just said the word, you're just hearing it in your ears. Now they say they'll let the person say the beginning part of the word and the last part of the word, and they'll bleep the middle. So it comes up in your mind. Your mind produces the profanity itself it's not that you're hearing it, you're actually the one who's generating it in your head. And that's really creepy, and it's really weird. Stop watching television. Stop watching movies. This is one of the further lessons of spirituality after Tawbah. Tawbah is the first one. But one of the further lessons is what? Is that now that your heart is back alive, it's beating again, your spiritual heart is alive again. You defibrillated it. Now what you have to do is, you have to understand what the things that affect it are, right? And one of the things that affect it is the tongue. Whatever the tongue says, there's a CC that's sent down to the heart as well. And if you're saying dirty things, then you're making your heart dirty. So stop listening to it. Stop hanging out with the people who do it. Listen to the people of dhikr, There are certain people when they stub their toe, they say a bad word. There's certain people when they stub their toe, they say, Ya Allah. They say, Ya Latif. They say one of the names of Allah Ta'ala. There's certain people when they're flustered, they, say damn and hell and God knows what. There's certain people when they're flustered, they say salat and salam on the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Hang out with them and that will come on your tongue as well. Because people there, like we said, spirituality, you want to learn spirituality, then you have to be around the people of spirituality. It rubs off. And fawahish, just whatever fahisha there is, whatever indecency there is, whether it be on the tongue or whether it be of the eye or whatever, a person has to stay away from it. Not just not do it, but they have to stay far away from it, the commandment of Allah Ta'ala. I became to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive all sins except shirk. Please explain the solution if I did any shirk. The shirk Allah Ta'ala doesn't forgive is the one that a person didn't make tawbah from in their life. The proper tafsir of Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalika liman yasha'u. The tafsir of it is if a person dies with the sin. If you die with shirk, Allah will not forgive it. If you die having not made tawbah from sins other than shirk, He might forgive them. There's certain people who just write them off anyway, right? That's possible, or He'll punish people for those things, right? As far as a person who's alive, as long as you're alive, Allah Ta'ala accepts tawbah from all things, including shirk. May Allah Ta'ala protect us. Shirk is described in the Quran as dhulm azim, as a superlatively enormous dhulm or transgression against Allah Ta'ala. Allah will even forgive that. Allah will even forgive that. And what is His forgiveness? This is one of the things, right? The way Allah Ta'ala accepts tawbah from a person is what? Right? If a person, for example, has their book of deeds and there's a sin written in it, the angels just don't cross it out. Because then people will be able to see the sin Yawm al-Qiyamah. They don't just erase it because then people Yawm al-Qiyamah will know at least you did some chakkar, you did something wrong, right? What do? When you make tawbah, He will write in the place of your sins a good deed, so that nobody even knows what happened. And this is a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that whoever made tawbah, he is with Allah Ta'ala, a person who didn't commit the sin. So honestly, you haven't even committed it once you made tawbah, as long as you can stay good on that tawbah. How do you get bad thoughts out of your mind? Stop watching the television, stop listening to music, stop, listening to the backbiting and the bad speech of people, stop some people are more sensitive to this than other people, right? Be careful about what you eat, that it's very halal. Not just like I saw someone eating there, but unfortunately even our own ulama, I don't want to call people out or whatever, but even our own ulama sometimes are, they're not strict about what they eat. The reason that you're not allowed to eat haram things is not because Allah Ta'ala revealed the religion in order to make your life horrible. In fact, He says in the Quran, Taha ma anzalna alayka al-Qur'an litashqa. That we didn't, Ya Muhammad alayka salatu wasalam, we didn't send down the Quran on you so that you could be wretched. La tadhkirata liman yakhsha. It's just a reminder for the person who fears the Day of Judgment, right? The reason eating halal is mandatory on you is because when the haram goes in, it's going to mess you up. Eating halal is very important. It's even more important than having tahajjud. Anyone who talks about spirituality without tawbah is selling you snake oil. Anyone who talks about after tawbah, who talks about spirituality without talking about being scrupulous about what you eat and drink, that person is complete fraud. Complete fraud. I guarantee you. Anyone who tells you not to be careful about what you eat and drink, that person is not bringing the hadi of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anyone when you talk about halal says, brother, there's more important things, that person has some other deen that they're pushing. Okay, there's this is like a whole 6-hour ban I can go into right now. People want to go home. The summary is what? Be very careful about what you eat and drink. If you're not 100% sure about what you eat and drink, just eat vegetarian. You know the Prophet ﷺ used to not eat so much meat. You know that, right? Nowadays, if we don't eat meat in a meal, we freak out as if like something's wrong, Some of us Desi use, I'm not a Hindu, I'm not a... What are you talking about? Astaghfirullah, man. My grandmother, she lived into her 80s. She died like possessed of all of her faculties, her physical faculties. She didn't need help going to the bathroom or walking around or any of those things, right? In her youth, she said, decades went by, we didn't eat any meat except for on Eid al-Adha, which is closer to what I see in the Sunnah, maybe just a couple of times in the year. You don't have to eat meat every time. In fact, you should accustom yourself not to eating it, right? That was one of the things that we have in our house. We have days of the week that we have without eating meat. I wish it was the other way, so much so that there are only one or 2 days that we do eat meat, right? If you don't eat meat, then half of the chakar is gone. There's other stuff, obviously, other than meat that can be haram. And you also have to be careful that the earning that you have, the livelihood that you're doing, buying the double, triple certified halal meat with is halal as well. But you have to be very, very, very careful about what you eat and drink. Right? This is nothing. The Islam of our forefathers, people they would not eat food that was cooked by a person who doesn't pray. They would not eat food cooked by, if you can sense the effect on your ruh, on your spirit, by eating the food cooked by a person who doesn't pray, imagine what the effect is going to be by a kafir. Right? One of Abu Hasan al-Ash'ari rahimahullah ta'ala's students, Abu Hasan al-Bahili, he used to sit in a screen. He didn't want people to see him, and he didn't want to see people. Why? Because he would see when people go out in the bazaar, in the suq, in the marketplace, he would see that these people come back with these mesmerized eyes that are mesmerized by the dunya. He said, I don't want you looking at me with those eyes. It's fine. You guys are, some people, maybe they're laughing about something else they're talking about. It's not a joke though. It's very serious. It's very serious because he used to consider, like nowadays, like imagine you go into a hospital and somebody goes, a doctor sees a patient and then afterward he has lunch without washing his hands. I mean, statistically he's probably not going to die, but is it a good practice? It's a bad practice. Some people who are aware of these things, they take them very seriously, right? They take them very seriously. So be very careful. I suspect what a person eats and drinks has a lot of dakhal in this. Okay? This is something ask Maulana Mikhail from Darul Uloom, ask the people who are very, very particular about halal and haram. There's most of the things that you see in food carts on the street and this and that. When you actually trace them back, it says halal in big letters. It's not halal. It's not halal. I promise you, most of the chicken in this country is slaughtered by machine. Probably half the beef. I'm talking about the things that are labeled halal. Like half of them have the cow beef is slaughtered by a vertical cut. It's haram. It's not a difference of, it is haram. And they're selling it as halal. Unfortunately, amana is gone from people nowadays, right? There's a place that, go if you want, go halaladvocates.org, right? Or halal, HALAL, advocates, ADVOCATES, halaladvocates.org, right? It's me, myself, and Mufti Abdullah Nana, who's senior to Mufti Zaid and Mufti Maulana Zaid, Mufti Muntasir from Azadville, Darul Uloom Azadville, mashallah. This is a khidmah that we've worked on. Weird, like a falafel place, right? Was inspected yesterday, or day before yesterday. And the vinaigrette sauce has wine in it, and the yogurt has gelatin in it, right? So wine is najas, right? So people are eating najasa every day. They don't even know about it. Why? Because they're eating a falafel. You know what I mean? You have to be careful about these types of things. It's important not to go so far that, it becomes mental illness or whatever. People have to step up these things. And I have to say, the game of New York in terms of halal is extremely weak. As a community, we're not doing the things that we need to in order to make sure that the marketplace is clean, right? People, when you ask them, where is the meat from, right? And they're like, oh brother, you don't trust me? You don't whatever, and they come up with this big long story. Look, transparency, there's nothing wrong. Transparency doesn't mean you don't trust a person. There should be transparency, right? There should be some sort of system, right? If you go to the government and, they ask for an ID in the airport and say, what, you don't trust me? Come on, this is ridiculous. Why is the deen of Allah a secondary importance, but stuff checking out a book from the library or something like that, which is hardly gonna alter your destiny to go to Jahannam forever or Jannah forever, right? Why is it that we accept that those things we have to have something about? I mean, people have to get together and work on these things. But, you have to be very careful and very important. It's very important what you eat. It has an effect on this, your spirituality. What you do with your private parts, what you look at with your eyes, what you listen to with your ears, what you say on your tongue, these are all inroads to the heart. If some people are destined to go to heaven while others are destined to go to hell, why did Allah create us? If everything is predetermined, Allah is determined for some to go to hell. Nothing occurs without Allah knowing it occurs. Why does Allah Ta'ala do this, right? Two things. One is this, right? If Allah is the one who destined everything to, everything that happens, does that mean you should make friends with Allah? There's two reactions to this question. One is that someone's like, oh, if Allah already did anything, why even try it, right? That's the reaction of the people of hellfire. The second reaction is a more intelligent reaction. Wow, if Allah has control over all this stuff, maybe I should ask Him, Ya Allah, write my destiny to be from the people of Jannah. Okay? The last question, the second question of why, okay? You don't ask Allah why. You have no right to ask Allah Ta'ala why. People say, well, no, I have a right. No, you don't have any right at all to ask Allah Ta'ala why He does what He does. Okay? Does anyone ask you why when it comes to your, what you do with your own property? Why did you fill up at this gas station and you don't fill up at the other gas station? Like a judge asked you or your father. I demand to know why. Right? And it's your car you bought with your own money. Right? What, are you Allah's father? A'udhu billah? No. Right? If you won't even accept that from your father, you'll think he's crazy. Why is he asking me this? Right? And Allah Ta'ala is the one who created you from nothing. You don't have the right to ask Allah why. Okay, you can understand that. Why? Because nobody tolerates that someone asks you why with your property. Even though your property was a gift that was given to you from Allah Ta'ala. Who here created their phone from nothing? Raise your hand. Who here created their car from nothing? Raise your hand. Who here created their house from nothing? Nobody, everything is a gift you gave. He created you from nothing. His ownership over you is more complete than your ownership over anything. If He sent every pious person and every righteous person to the hellfire, there's no injustice that happened. Just like if you took your phone outside and you smashed it and said, I want to buy another one, as long as you don't leave the shards of glass on the sidewalk or whatever, you clean up after yourself, no crime was committed. Why? Because it's yours. So you can ask regarding Allah Ta'ala, does He exist or does He not? Explore that question if you need to. And you can ask, what does Allah Ta'ala want from me? Explore that question if you need to. Anyone who has the gall to say why to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, know that He says in His book, لا يسأل عما يفعل وهم يسألون. He is not to be asked about what He did. Rather, He's the one who asks others. No one has the right to ask why to Allah. If anyone has thinks they can ask why to Allah Ta'ala, do me a favor, okay? Go to a prison, okay? And ask a prisoner, the toughest prisoner there who's like in for life and like whatever, has tattoos all across his face and his bicep is bigger than your head. And ask him, hey, why'd you get all those tattoos? Right? Demand like you have a right, like you're asking from Allah Ta'ala right now. Demand that from the prisoner. And when he beats the living snot out of you, okay, get up and ask why again. And keep repeating that process until you realize you have no right to ask this guy why. How are you going to ask Allah Ta'ala? Really, does he worship you or you worship him? Come on. This is the thing, these things like really like, they boggle my mind. I thank Allah Ta'ala that we saw our mashaykh and we saw our ulama that understood these things. This is like a stupidity. If you don't understand it, it's like really, I'm not saying you're stupid, but like when you realize how wrong it was, you'll be like, oh my God, that made, Allah created you from nothing and you're asking Him why? Tell me something. Are you able to understand Allah Ta'ala? Right? If you think you can understand Allah Ta'ala, you don't know who Allah is. Right? So then what's the point of asking why? Even if He told you the reason, right? You're going to understand, you're not going to understand it. You think you can understand it, then you're worshipping another person. Because a lot of people, they think of Allah, this is why people need to read Aqidah, right? They think Allah Ta'ala is maybe like Zeus on Mount Olympus or something like that, throwing thunderbolts at people, getting upset at them. It's not like that, right? Allah Ta'ala, laysa kamithlihi shay, there's nothing like anything like unto Him. Okay? The fact that you ask why assumes that you can even understand when He tells you. You can't understand. Okay? We sometimes know the hikmah, a wisdom in a ruling of His. But we don't know the illah, we don't know the reason. You can say, okay, Allah did this, I benefited somehow from it. But the reason Allah Ta'ala did anything, you can't even understand it, even if He told you, you wouldn't be able to understand it. You are not Him, how are you going to understand? You're not anything close to it. It's something very important. Go home, just make muraqabah on this fact that Allah Ta'ala, you're never going to be able to understand. The person who understands this is the one who understood Allah the best, the most. Al-ajzu an al-idraki idraku. To know that you're unable to understand, that's the best understanding that you'll ever have. Those are the people who are the awliya of Allah Ta'ala. Can you give us some advice as to why we need to start practicing deen, especially in high school? Because you're an adult. You're a grown man. This is one of the calamities that hit this is one of the calamities that hit the ummah. Is that our men don't act like men. When you hit the age of puberty, you are an adult in the law of Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you're not 18 yet, doesn't matter. If you're not 21 yet, doesn't matter, right? Who's the one who sets whether you're an adult or not? The liquor store or Allah? Right? You are a grown man. If you die in this state, you die in kufr, you're going to Jahannam forever. That's it. Done. And if you die doing something good, you will be a wali of Allah Ta'ala forever. Life and death is not a joke. Everything's not a joke. This is one of the things, right? Right now, if you're smiling, right, you should be upset because I'm right now ribbing you out. If you're one of the kids that laugh and joke and smile about everything, it's a sign of your immaturity. This is one of the things that we expect from small children, right? Not everything in life is a joke. Not everything in life. There's certain things that are serious in life. People say, why are you serious all the time? Okay, don't be serious all the time. Right? But it doesn't mean that everything is a joke. There are some things that are serious. Okay? If a person needs to ask, why do I have to practice the deen in high school? The reason you have to practice the deen before you become an adult is so that you can be in the habit of practicing deen. You're not going to tell someone, okay, now girl, you're 14, you have to start wearing hijab. Why? Because she's not in the habit of it. So you want her to be in the habit of it, because if she's an adult for 1 second, afterwards she dies, she's going to what? Go to her fate. If a man is not praying, he skipped his prayers for the day, just the day that he becomes an adult, and he dies that day, then he's going to be written amongst those who didn't pray. That's not a joke. That's for real. Life is not a joke. This is a culture of people babying each other. I'm sick and tired of meeting these people who are babied. I'm sick and tired of middle schoolers who are babied. I'm sick and tired of high schoolers who are babied. And I'm sick and tired of meeting grown men. Someone told me, talk to my son. He doesn't listen to my wife when she tells him to clean his room and take out the garbage. I'm thinking it's like some 8th grade kid or whatever. How old is he? He's 23. I said, what? He's 23. I said, you need to say, Jazakallah khairan. Here's $1,000. Go find yourself an apartment. You can come have dinner every Friday at my house. I'll see you later. Right? If you are parents and you are babying your children, you are treating someone who is an adult not like an adult. And if you think that you will be able to parent your children only through positive means, you are training people with the training of the people of the hellfire. Did Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam say only use a positive approach? No, there's targhib and there's tarhib. There's times that the Quran is very harsh. There's times that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was harsh with his Sahaba, not for the sake of being a monster, but because that's what's needed sometimes. Right? You have kids, they smile, everything. Oh, Shaykh, I'm your best student, I'm your this. What do you do? You don't do your homework, you fail all of your exams, you show no responsibility, you don't come on time to anything, and you want me to be positive with you? You're a complete failure, you need to get your life together. You need to get your life together. You expect someone is going to marry their daughter to you one day? These people then come, these immature boys and girls get married, and then they come to me and waste my time in my office, that they don't know how to act like adults with one another. They don't have to act like adults. They have no shame in front of one another. And then their weird personal problems, private problems, I can't even mention inside of the masjid because of how immature and self-centered and selfish they are with one another. All of these things are what? Because what? Because people are not, they don't take anything seriously. Be a man, for God's sakes. You guys are here, so wallahi, it's sad to say some of the women have more manly characters and traits inside of them than we do. Be a man, right? Take one for the team. Don't ever ask if whoever here is baligh, right? You hit the age of puberty, right? Don't ever ask your mom and dad for money again. It's a sin, aib. If your father pays for your education, he's going to get the reward of sadaqah for it. If your father houses you in your home one night, he gets the reward of sadaqah for it. If he kicked you out, he's not doing any dhulm on you whatsoever. Right? This is serious, this is real. If your mother asks you to do something, she cooks for you, she's getting the reward of sadaqah. She doesn't have to do anything for you. Now's the time where you should be doing khidmah for her. Now's the time you should be doing khidmah for your sisters. Now's the time you should be doing khidmah for your younger siblings. And you expect me, why doesn't he buy this for me? Why doesn't go out, how about this? Go get a job. Go get a job, earn your own money. Oh, but I have to go to school, I have to this. Okay, fine. If your Abu is paying for your education and giving you free room and board, don't bust his chops. He's doing a favor to you so that you can have an education and live a good life. It's a gift he's giving to you. You're never going to be able to repay it. Don't act like a child, please. Don't snicker about not everything is a laughing matter. Don't think of everything. So people ask me like, what do you advise? If this was a parent who's asking, what advice do you give to start practicing the deen, if this is a parent who's asking, right? Man, I pray for your children. I pray for your children. You need to start treating them like adults. Okay? This is a kid who's asking this question, right? It's your business to know why. Okay? I can't explain like a lifetime of missed like opportunity to teach you why. Okay? But all I can say right now, it's your business. You better figure out why. Because you're responsible for what choices you make. If you die before thinking it's important to practice the deen, Yawm al-Qiyamah, you get raised up with the kuffar, then that's not my choice. That's your choice. That's something you chose. That's not my. I wish you the best. I pray for you. If you need some advice, I'm there for you and stuff. I'm there to help you as much as I can. I'm not as mean in person as I seem like maybe in bayan, but you better take this stuff seriously. It's not a joke. If you haven't reached puberty yet, right, you have to take this stuff seriously because no one will practice the deen when they become an adult except for the person who was preparing for it from before. It's just like in a relay race, right? If you start the race running, obviously you'll finish faster than if you start the race from a standstill. You have to take these things very, with great importance. I have a fellow employee who is an atheist. One question he asked, why Satan went to hell for not bowing to Allah Ta'ala. How do I answer this? Right? Allah Ta'ala does what He wills, and He's the one who has the ability to give people punishment and to give people reward. He created everything from nothing. Everything belongs to Him. He does with His creation what He pleased. He wrote for Himself that the one who obeys Him, He will reward him and forgive him, and the one who turns his back on Him, He will punish him. So ask that person, what if you had a company and you have an employee that not only does he not listen to you, right? The company employee who doesn't listen to boss, that's like us, right? The kafir is the company employee who gives like silent treatment to the boss, pretend he doesn't even exist, right? Then afterward you're going to expect a paycheck? Go to hell. Literally. Allah exists, whether you want to accept it or not, right? The universe didn't come from nowhere. Allah Ta'ala exists. You have to make peace with Him. If you die, you didn't make peace with, that's your problem, right? Really, honestly, if an atheist doesn't believe in Islam, it's not your problem. It's his problem. Allah Ta'ala guides certain people, He misguides other people. There's a khalq that was created for the hellfire, right? Your job and my job as mu'mineen is to ask Allah every day, every moment and instant of our existence, to ask that we not be one of them, right? But if somebody else is, ice skating in that direction, and you can't stop, you can feel bad about it. The Prophet ﷺ felt bad about it. But, istaghfir lahum wa la tastaghfir lahum. Seek, Allah Ta'ala says to him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, seek forgiveness or don't seek forgiveness. Even if you sought forgiveness for them 70 times in the day, I won't forgive them. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says in a hadith of Sahih Bukhari, if I'd known asking more than 70 times for them would have made a difference, I would have done it. But I know that Allah means here that nothing will help them. So tell them, you don't have to, beat it into them. You don't have to get into an argument with them. Just tell them with dignity and clarity. If they ask you for it, remind them. Sometimes a person will come back to you and argue with you again and again. Not because anything else. They just want you to hear you talk about Allah Ta'ala. And interfaith groups come to the masjid every now and then, talk to people about Allah. Everyone loves to hear about Allah. Atheists, they love to hear about Allah. And then afterward they say, oh, I wish I could believe that. Well, you can. But talk about Allah Ta'ala. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't argue with people or feel like, there's a failure of Islam just because a person who's a moron doesn't understand. That's their defect. That's not a defect in the deen. I have bad thoughts. If you have bad thoughts in your mind, how to get rid of them. Like we said, a person has to go through quarantine, purify their tongue, purify what they eat, purify their private parts from doing the haram, purify their touch from touching the haram, their eyes from seeing the haram, their ears from hearing the haram. An excellent way of doing this is making i'tikaf in the masjid. Okay? If there are some pious brothers who are going on jamaat, who actually know something about the deen, that may be a way of doing it, but make sure that you go with the right people, inshallah. MashaAllah, brother, Bhai Usman Qureshi, raise your hand. He'll tell you more about it afterward. Right? Raise your hand. When is Tablighi like shying from Tashkil? Come on, man. Just raise your hand, right? You can talk to him about it. That's a really good way of purifying all these things, right? Do what you need to do to quarantine. Like a person who's in illness, you quarantine yourself. I promise you, if you spend 10 days, spend 40 days, spend a month, something like that, cutting your eyesight from haram, cutting your ears from haram, it'll hurt. Naf's gonna be like, yo, where's all that fun stuff I was doing? Bring it back. It's gonna, you're gonna have dreams about doing weird things. You're gonna have all these things will happen. Nafs is kicking and screaming, right? But after a good month, 40 days, you'll be alright. You'll be alright. And then when you go back home and you start doing the same dumb things that got you in that problem in the first place, you'll feel instantly, this is what was killing me. This is what was killing me. Go do it, find some Allah, one of the Ahlullah people, Nowadays Masajid can't even keep an imam for like more than a year, 6 months, 10 months, 15 months, right? So where are you gonna find the people of Allah Ta'ala? Good luck, man. We've like barred them from our Masajid, we barred them from all kinds of places, right? But go wherever you can find someone like that. There's a lot of people, mashallah. Go, Masjid Noor, Long Island, Maulana Ibrahim Hashim, one of the most spiritual people I ever met. It's just Huntington, it's just up the island, right? Huntington, right? I visited him, I feel better for like weeks after having visited him. Right? There are people like that around you. Go visit them and take advantage and benefit from them. Maulana Mikhail, from Darul New York, such a wonderful person. He'll mask his spiritual state with jokes and with trying to be funny. He's a very, very, very spiritual person. Find one of these people and sit in their company and ask them what to do. They'll be very happy to point you in the right direction. Allah Ta'ala give all of us tawfiq, inshallah, to make amal on what the best of what we learned today. May Allah Ta'ala forgive me for all the excesses and wrong things I said. If I offended anybody, it wasn't my intention. Please forgive me for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. بارك الله فيكم.